There's power in proximity. The reason why I'm starting this podcast is because I have had the gift of going from being an outsider in a lot of spaces to becoming an insider. And I have found that there's so much power in being in the right rooms and around the right people. The In my book, Just Start in chapter 7, I talk specifically about the power of places, and there's this story that I learned while I was in Hawaii called island giganticism. And it's basically this idea that on islands in Hawaii, there are these animals, and over time, the birds, they used to be able to fly, and they actually got fatter and fatter and stopped laying their eggs in trees because there was no prey. And so they actually would lay their eggs on the ground. They stopped being able to fly, and over time, actually lost this ability. And when predators came back to the island or were introduced by people, they went extinct. And that was a function of in their environment, they did not need to do anything different. They were fine. And the reason why I'm starting this podcast is because I found in my life that being in the right spaces changed who I was and the way I showed up and what I thought was possible. And so the reason why I want to break down some of these things that took me from being the 13-year-old, as my sister has described me, of talking at people, to just this last month, because of I was at a gym and have been there and got invited to go to Brazil and got to have this amazing experience that someone invited me into. They did not have to invite me into. And so I've realized that in each of these spaces there are skills and mindsets and character that was developed over time. And I hope to be able to translate that to you and transfer that to you through this podcast. And I wrote this first book that was really all about action. And the next book that I'm writing this podcast is really leading into is really all about community and the power of people and the power of proximity. And a part of that is I have seen this in my own life multiple times. I've seen it when I had started playing drums. I'd played drums for 7 years, but it was when I moved up here to Sacramento and went from playing drums by myself to playing 4 times a week, being around other drummers and understanding I was not the best drummer. I was actually the second. There were 4 of us. I was the second worst of all of us, and I knew that. And the thing about stepping into a new space is recognizing for me that developing skills, that actually breeds confidence. So if you are a young man in your 20s and you're listening to this and you're going, like, I don't have that much confidence in these things, some of it, I bet, is you have not yet developed any skills to where you can go, I may not know everything, but I do know something about this specific area. For me, the first skill that I really developed was playing drums. And so I went from being one of the worst drummers, in a sense, to becoming the person that when someone called out or wasn't available, they would want me to be there. And I've now gotten the chance to play drums in front of over 100,000 people over the last 15 years now. But none of that would have happened had I not moved here to Sacramento, again, changed my environment and been in a place where I was not the best. And it gave me the right mental space to go, I can get better now because I'm around people who are better. And they're not super more special than I am. They practiced a whole lot more when they were younger. They got way more live experience than I did when I was younger, but I can do this now. And so over the next amount of time, as I continue to share more of these, I'm going to walk through each one of these stories. There was another example was I learned Spanish over 10 years, but it was when I went to Ecuador and I lived there for 2.5 weeks, and then in a total of 77 days in 1 year, where my Spanish, that skill, developed again in an environment. And now what that looks like is I'm a part of something called ACQ Vantage, which is a community for business owners that are doing over $1 million a year in annual revenue. I'm not at that point yet, to be totally clear, but I was able to join early enough to where that wasn't a requirement yet. And I get to be around people who are already there. And so there's this positive pull of the environments that I'm in. And I'm a part of a gym called Lifetime. And I love that even today, I'm talking with a guy who I just met, whose name is Todd, who, when he retired, he got a Rolex Submariner. And there's another friend of mine who I was talking to, who I went to Brazil with, and he's about to be going to Italy next week. And another friend that just got back from, or is about to go to Vegas. And so there is something that when you're in these environments where people are doing these things, it becomes more normal. Whereas a me 2 years ago would have been like, wow, that guy's going to Italy? That, like, you just got back from Brazil? If I met me 2 years ago, I would be amazed at the life that I'm getting to live. And I share that not to say, look at me, but because I'm genuinely stoked that this is the life that I get to live. And I hope to be able to show you some of these skills that you can develop, because a lot of these are some micro skills that I've developed over time through specific habits. And one really simple one that would be really the first place to start if you're going, I want to be able to step into a new space and feel confident, and is number one, you got to develop some sort of a skill. If you haven't developed one specific skill to a level of expertise and mastery, please do that, and go, what do I like? What am I good at? Or what am I interested in? And just start to learn about that thing, whatever it is. And it can be, like, for me, there have been times where I've been super obsessed with storytelling, super obsessed with writing specifically. I've been super obsessed with playing drums and music. And I've been obsessed with different languages, or right now I'm learning more about world literature. And so it can look different. It doesn't have to be one specific thing, but if you gain skill, and I would specifically say, if there is a space that you are walking into for the first time, looking at what is a skill that is highly valued in this space, and how do I become an expert in that? That will actually give you the best returns on your investment of time. And this is something that I didn't even realize I was doing until a few years ago, which is I would walk into a space and do a few things. Number one, I would look at what is the hierarchy that's happening inside of this environment. So meaning in almost every space, there's someone who's the leader, someone who is the top person, the one who put the event together. There's almost always that person. And then there are usually people that are supporting that person, that are either close friends, they have known them for a super long time. And those are kind of like the tier 2, if you will. And then there's the people that they show up, and when they show up, everyone just lights up. And so I would say those are like the, I guess, top 3 groups, where there's like the influence because of position, influence because of connection to position, and then influence because of character, or who someone is and what they bring. And most of the spaces that I have walked into in my life, I unconsciously would go, oh, those are the people that lead. Those are the people that are connected to the person who lead. And those are the people that, for whatever reason, everyone just seems to respect those people. I'm not 100% sure why, but that's just my initial assessment based on walking into this space for the first time. And then from there, I will choose to invest time with usually not the leader of the space. Oftentimes they're busy and everyone wants to be around them. So instead, usually it's far easier to go, who are the people who have influence but no title, and become good friends with them, and the people that are adjacent to the leader, because if you become good friends with those that are adjacent, they will eventually introduce you, and that will just happen naturally. And so that's kind of when I walk into a space, I'm doing that. The other thing is I'm going, what are the skills or knowledge or experiences that I've had that could be valuable in this space? When I was in young adult spaces at church, a lot of it was just being willing to go up and make new friends. And I will go into kind of exactly how I would do that and how to make a great first impression. That'll be something coming very shortly. But that is really invisible world that I couldn't even see that I was doing that has been incredibly valuable for me. And there's more there, but that is the beginning, is walking into a space going, what is, first develop a skill, being able to walk into a space and assess those three different layers of people, and then after that investing time with those people outside of any group activity. So it's going to coffee, going to lunch, and doing those things to invest in those relationships. And a big part of this is that there has to be a genuineness in the way that you do this. If you are doing this for your own selfish gain or anything like that, it won't work the same. So I'm going to do a podcast on character as well, because being someone that's reliable, that people trust, that people want to be around, it's kind of the foundation of all of this. If you lack that, this will not work. But if you have that foundation of character and you can see the good in people, and then you start to put some of these things in place, it can really, I mean, I am consciously cultivating a level of awe for the life that I get to lead today because of some of these things that I've learned. And man, I just want you to be able to have these experiences too. I don't think this is unique to me. I think this is something that you can do too. And so I'm going to do my best to transfer the skills, the experiences, and the knowledge that I've learned, and some of the resources too that I have just plugged into, because I'm just gonna share the story and what I've actually gone through. I'm trying to actually just tell the truth as it happened. So if that's something that you're here for and you're wanting to build really healthy, really awesome community, go ahead and subscribe here to this podcast, to this YouTube channel, and I will see you soon with another video talking specifically about building community and growing yourself as a person. And that, man, it's the core of this is really people over everything, because everything we want comes from people. Adios.